Good evening and welcome to the Invictus Racing League. This is the top tier of Tier 1, unfortunately a little bit light on drivers, but it is for round 2 at the Singapore Grand Prix. See, last week the Japanese Grand Prix got postponed till the break week. And this week we have a slightly shortened format due to some numbers, obviously being holidays and stuff, people not being available. We are running a one-shot qualifying, followed by a 35% race. The drivers will get half points this week, as they are not doing the full format. But nonetheless, I mean, it's Singapore, anything can happen, and even in a 35% race, you can still hit the wall. My name is JP8. Joining me alongside me in the commentary box, as usual, is Bruce Lee Harding. Good evening, Bruce.
Yeah, good evening, JPH. Looking really ready up, unfortunately, for someone's. I don't think anyone's going to care tonight, but yeah, it's as you say, a bit of a shame. Shades of Indianapolis with the tyre fast from many years ago. But we could look on the bright side. We haven't got 6 drivers; we've got 7 instead. So it's an improvement on that, if nothing else.
And I don't know if you can see this, Bruce, but that looks like there's a bit of rain on the screen for qualifying.
Yes, I have just literally noticed that by Got Spook's garage. So yeah, I think we may have a wet. Well, it's wet but with slicks. So here we go.
Yes. Bear with me 1 second. I just remembered I need to redo my audio balance. So anyway, we're here with Ryan in the Sauber. We've just gone through turns 1, 2, 3, 4, up towards 5. We're going to downshift into 5th, down to 4th for the Sauber. DRS wide open as we head down towards turn number 7, 6 to flip right. Hit the brakes, about in between the 100 and the 50 board, get it turned in nicely, use a little bit of exit curb. Into 8, tight hairpin right, 2nd gear, 9, just down 1 gear, and Lebedev has already, as Ryan slides out of 9 as we come down towards the Singapore sling of turn 10. Lebedev already in the wall somewhere, and out of this qualifying. 11 and 12, awkward and tricky. It's very slippy as you head onto the Anderson Bridge. Flick it right into turn 13. This hairpin that leads you into the 2nd of the DRS zones. Just ease it to the left-hand side, 100 metres just after. Hit the brakes down to 30. Use a little bit of inside curve, not too much. It will bounce the car around. To see how greasy the conditions are as Ryan hits the throttle. And then down this section, which is different to usual. The first time last year it was used. As we head into the final chicane of turns 16, 17, 18 and 19 await us. Leave it in 6th gear all the way through. It's going to be Mercked on pole, followed by Gotspook, Ryan in 3rd, Keza 4th, Brando in 5th. Louis has obviously had a little bit of an issue. He's actually invalidated his lap time. So he'll start at the back, I think. Lebedev will start in 5th because Lebedev retired, whereas Louis effectively got disqualified.
Yeah, Lebedev did actually invalidate his lap at the end of the DRS straight. It kind of almost turned into a bit too much pace, turned in a bit too early, and ended up running very wide. And I'm unsure then as to whether he just retired on the spot or whether then he had an incident further on. I suggest probably the former. But yeah, the grid for the shortened 35% race is Mercked on pole in the Mercedes. We've got Spook 2nd, Ryan 3rd, and Keza 4th. Brando Camalango in 5th, Lebedev 6th, and Louis 7th.
Yeah, so we got if that's the weather for the race, which I know the drivers won't like, we will very much enjoy that. And as hello, we have tsunami weather. That makes it more interesting for us as commentators and for anyone watching, spectating this race, because this race has just got a lot more interesting, even with the number of drivers we have.
Absolutely, and I know Keza was saying he was excited for a wet race, hopefully tonight in the chat. So I'm sure he'll be delighted. Yeah, it does make it, as you say, very, very interesting. It's going to be a long race in these conditions, even with the shortened format tonight. But yeah, I mean, as I say, less drivers. Good chance here for Red Bull, the drivers of Brando Camalango and Got Spooked, to gain some good manufacture points here. And well, we're going straight in.
Yeah, onto the formation lap. Yeah. as the drivers. I mean, they're not going to have to worry about weight like George Russell did in Belgium because their overalls are going to be so soaked with water. They're going to weigh probably an extra 5 kilograms more than when they started this race.
Yes, yeah, it's yeah. They could probably do with a few windscreen wipers at this point for their helmets, but yeah, it throws up a few unknowns. You know, I'm guessing obviously they would have known about this weather from before the race. Although on one shot quali, can you actually see the weather for the race?
Yes, you can see the weather for the race.
Okay, so you think probably they would have taken a slightly wet setup, but then again, it's very high downforce around the circuit, even in the dry. So the setup's probably not too far different from that anyway. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this rain's due to clear or not, or if it is here for the entire duration.
Yeah, as we go through this formation, you can see the drivers. They're just trying to find that sort of limit on this formation lap.
Yeah, I'd say probably in these wet conditions, it's probably a bit more favourable. Last night in Tier 2 we had conditions going from slicks to wet, and it was sort of inter conditions, so it was very tricky to find the balance, and very slippy in the damp conditions. You'd have to feel on actual full wet tyres, maybe the grip is a bit easier to judge perhaps than that of last night, but yeah, it will be very interesting to see how much this plays into the hands of some of the drivers who might not normally see at the front.
Yeah, and obviously a finish will guarantee you at least 7th place in the points, so the biggest thing for the drivers here is don't hit the wall.
Yeah, exactly, and I think also the tyre strategy suggests wet to wet from what I'm seeing, so I assume that means it's going to be wet throughout. But yeah, staying out of trouble big time at turn 1, obviously with only a small grid, you want to try and get a clean start, a clean getaway. But yeah, here we go. It's over to you, JP.
So we have the 5 red lights, and we are underway for the Singapore Grand Prix. He's got the best getaway. Looks like Merckx has got a good getaway, but got spooked. Is down the inside, down towards turn 1. The car's gently going. It looks like the Aston Martin of Lebedev going down the inside of Keza. So we head into 3. The Aston Martin and the McLaren side by side, as is the Red Bull and the Mercedes. Up towards 5 we go, and you can just see them trying to find that limit of grip as Gotspook goes round the outside into the lead of this race. And that is a great start for the Red Bull of Got Spooked. Further down, Lebedev did get Keza in the end. So it's a good start from him as we head through into the second sector of this first lap.
Yeah, as you say, good move from Lebedev. A bit of wheel barging, but I think nothing too sinister. I'm noticing early on, as a big slow from Lebedev there, a few of the guys getting used to the fact here. I think that you can kind of almost part drift into a corner under braking. It's quite a weird feeling with the wet on this current game, and if you can master how much you can get away with sliding the car whilst carrying that momentum, I think it does sort of set you up well for the race. And yeah, interesting to see that Gotspook's taken great advantage of a really good start to get that lead.
Yeah, I guess the other question is, how long are these wet tyres going to last for? Because obviously the tyre wear does sort of get adjusted for the race distance. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to have to pit for another set of wet tyres during this race, because they're not going to last forever. Although the tyre wear here isn't very high.
No, it is quite low time at all. Big little snap there for Louis, but it holds it well. Yeah, it's tricky because I think it's highly unlikely that most of these guys would have actually done any practice for wet conditions, or at least not to this magnitude anyway, as Louis runs a bit wide at turn 1 chasing down Keza. So yeah, as you say, shortened format, probably conditions no one was really expecting. I don't think anyone will really have any sort of prior knowledge to this, as Keza is sideways in the McLaren. Going into this race, I think everyone's probably sort of a voyage into the unknown somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, we had wet conditions last night in Tier 2, and that got a bit interesting for a few drivers. But Brando Camalanga, he's on the back of the Sauber wall, as I think Ryan just clipped the wall with the rear right. That's going to open the door for Brando down the inside. Down towards the Singapore sling. I think, is Ryan going to bail out this one? Yes, he does. He decides not to try and go side by side. The better option round there, because the sling is not a place you want to be going side by side. And you see how slippy it is as they come over the Anderson Bridge.
Yeah, no matter which way you're looking forwards or backwards, there's at least one car going sideways. Yeah, Ryan then chasing down Brando after that small mistake there. He's sliding the car around trying to catch back up with the Red Bull. But yeah, really good for Red Bull at the moment. 1 and 3 currently. Obviously, it's the only constructor here that have 2 cars showing. So yeah, as I said earlier, a great chance for them at the moment, 1st and 3rd. I think they probably take that right now.
Yeah, even with the half points that are on offer. Like you said, no matter whether you look forwards or backwards, one's always sideways. As Brando Camalanga gets a little twitch coming through the last couple of corners. Driver's looking forward, driver's looking back, driver's looking to the side. They have to have 360 vision round here in these conditions. But Mert, not far away from Got Spooked, he's managed to start to close that gap back in. It's now just over half a second. Louis is on the back of Keza, and as Keza goes sideways into turn 5, and I think he just clips the wall there as well. Louis might have a chance coming down towards turn 7.
Yeah, obviously no DRS due to the conditions, but yeah, easy to make that little mistake. As you say there, Keza was just rubbing up against the wall ever so slightly, and it did give Louis a run, but just not quite enough time to get the move done down into, what, 2 and 5, I think it was, or 6 maybe.
Down to the sling at turn 10. Keza's just managed to get a little bit of distance to the Ferrari. And up front, Got Spooked is nicely controlling this race at the moment.
Oh!
Bruce
right,
is
Louis with a huge moment over the Anderson Bridge, very, very well held, but was a fair angle compared to what I think he'd want to be.
I mean, I tell you what, this rain, it looks like it's getting even heavier, which is quite impressive, considering it was already very heavy before. And it's not going to be easy, as Got Spooked now has Merc 4 tenths behind. But it's not really easy for Merc here with the spray coming from that Red Bull. It doesn't aid your vision in any sort of way when you're trying to race your opponents here.
No, absolutely. Yeah, Merc is looking, I would say, very confident on the brakes now. I feel he's got the measure of these conditions a little bit. The only thing is, I think in these conditions it's very hard to get past in the wet. It's too easy to run into the back of the guy in front, so you're kind of almost waiting for them to make a mistake so you can just get a run on them out of the corner. And that's a 3-second penalty for Keza. Already only we've only done basically 3 and a bit laps so far.
So he's on
Louis
par.
down the inside.
Yeah, as Louis goes past, takes advantage of the mistake from Keza. But Keza on a par to get maybe 21 seconds worth of penalties at this rate. Which would be an achievement, I think, in IRL for corner cut penalties. But Merc, 4 tenths. And really, this is the main battle. I mean, the guys behind there slowly kind of separating apart. However, as we know with these races, it only takes one mistake for you to be back on the tail of the car ahead. But Merc, when does he make? He's got to be sensible about this. I mean, as we know, half points available. He still has to be sensible about this because he can still cost him and Got Spooked a lot of points if it goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're both looking currently the class of the field at the moment, I'd say. Excuse me, it does make you wonder at this point. I mean, I don't really know what the tyre wear currently is on these guys, but on the basis that we think everyone's going to have to stop at least once, it makes you wonder if you get to maybe lap 6 or 7. Got Spooked did the fastest lap, so counteracting the challenge from Merc. But yeah, it does make you wonder if Brando might consider coming in early for wet, so he's got better wets, can maybe undercut big time as Keza comes in the pits.
I wonder if he's going to try the inters, because the rain has got lighter.
Inters it is indeed for the McLaren driver, so it'd be very interesting to see what sort of sector times he starts setting now.
Yeah, the rain visibly lighter than earlier. So, and as we know, in the F1 games of late, the track, when the weather changes, the track changes very quickly. Especially on tracks like Singapore, where it's quite hot, like warm weather. For drying, it does tend to change quite quickly. So let's see if it's the right time for those inters. The key will be that time to Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna keep an eye. Obviously, this first sector's or this first lap's going to be hard to work out exactly how he's getting on, but I'll keep an eye on his sector times compared to what he's done previous, and yeah, see exactly what he's doing. He wasn't exactly going slow. He was a few seconds off the guys at the front, but if he can make these tyres work for him early doors, then that gap could come down pretty quick. It does look like it's difficult to get on the power early though with these tyres. He's hit the wall. The end plate gone.
And that is going to essentially ruin any data that the guys in, like for Brando, Ryan, Lebedev, that's going to ruin any chance of any data for them to know if the inters are the correct tyre.
Absolutely. Lebedev now going in the pits as well. Maybe he's fancying the switch to inters. But yeah, big shame for Keza there, just clipping the wall, and it was actually on the inside of the Singapore sling, so just trying to take too much of a cut across that curve and actually just clip the wall, and yeah, the end plate fell off, and you can see already how hard it is for him to turn that car around right-handers and even left-handers now.
Yeah, once you lose that little bit of assistance from the front wing, it just keeps multiplying, and I suspect, yeah, because in the pits to get that front wing changed. But we know Keza, he will not retire from this race. He knows there's points on offer for him here, so there's no point in retiring.
Absolutely. I mean, he's guaranteed 7th place at the end of the day. Points are points, they're all handy. He's scoring more points than the people who aren't racing tonight at the end of the day, so you just kind of got to keep persevering, really. But yeah, now it's Lebedev is our next guide as to how well these inters are going to work.
He's just coming into sector 2 is Lebedev. Meanwhile, Merck allegedly sets a fastest sector 2, but we know the game lies a lot. Lebedev 26.6 at present to Louis. As Merck looking to the outside of Got Spooked, looking to maybe get a switch back here through the final chicane, and it looks like he's got a run. He's down the inside up towards the final couple of corners, and Got Spooked must use a little bit of energy there just to keep his nose ahead, because he gets through and Merck sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:44.7, so the track is getting drier with those times coming down.
Brando and Ryan in. I was just noticing then that Lebedev, his second sector was on a par with what he set before on the wet, so we're definitely at that crossover point. It'll be interesting to see what he does now in this final sector. He was obviously just going out to pit, so his lap time is about 20 seconds down, so if he can cut this down to a 19 seconds off his previous best, then that shows that his tyres are getting better. And 18.2, so he's just gone 2 seconds quicker through that final sector.
So good news then for Lebedev, and his tyres are going to be nicely heated now. He should be able to gain a little bit of ground on Ryan. What's interesting though is Brando's gone for another set of wets. That has to be a mistake. Yeah,
I'm not sure he meant to do that. As you say, I think that's quite a big mistake. I think Ryan's going to probably catch him before the end of the lap, easily probably by the Anderson Bridge, so a bit of a nightmare there for Brando. I guess all we can kind of hope for here is a safety car, because those tyres are not what you want to be on right now.
I mean, usually we'd be sat here saying, Singapore, you've got almost 100% chance of a safety car. But with this number of drivers, that is massively reduced, because these drivers do tend to, at the top tier, they don't tend to just hit the wall for no reason.
No, it's a small field, but it's 100% a quality field. And here we go. So we've got Gotspook coming in, Merck staying out.
So Merck looking for an overcut.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
and
that's not ideal for Got Spooked.
That's a disaster for Got Spooked. I don't believe it. That's, yeah, very bad news for him. I genuinely think, looking at this, Ryan, yeah, Ryan's not going to be up with Got Spooked, obviously, though, but he's not going to be far off. And Ryan is on the back of Brando as expected already. So, yeah,
Brando
pitching,
back in the
and Brando comes
pits.
back in. So, yeah, clearly a bit of a mistake there going back onto another set of wets.
I mean, I think I know why Got Spook's done that, because obviously the line is really weird. You've got a double line in Singapore. You've got almost like as Ryan Pixman have 3 seconds penalties for track infringements. You've got you got your first line, which some people mistake as the initial pit line, and then you've got a second one for the speed limit line, and the speed limit in the pit lane here is 37 miles an hour, which is a lot slower than a normal track, and it's very easy not to get the car slowed down to that level in these type of cars.
Yeah, even though you have that tight corner before, these things do pick up speed pretty quick, and it's easy to make that mistake. You kind of have to watch your speed like a Hulk, really, coming in. Keza now with the fastest lap of the race, showing that clearly these intermediates are the best tyre by a long, long way. And yeah, a disaster when he's got speed. I think he would have easily taken the lead of this race when Mert comes in the pits, but maybe Mert is expecting some heavier rain to materialise again, and feels that actually, rather than switching to Inters, which is the best tyre right now, he's better off sticking with the wets and dragging out. Although having said that, he's in the pits, yeah.
In the pits, because now with Spooked having that 10-second penalty, Merck can now basically just do whatever Got Spooked does, and as long as he's within 10 seconds of him, which, let's face it, it's very rare Merck is going to lose that sort of time, he's going to have the position over the Red Bull.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big shame because Got Spooked is going to take the lead of this race, but obviously with that penalty, not so much. But yeah, clearly that early switch, those inters, definitely made a difference. Lebedev now setting fastest lap of the race. Louis coming out of the pits now, so he's come out in 5th place. So yeah, a little bit further down than I think he'd have liked. Maybe he could have benefited from an earlier stop onto those inters, but yeah, it does make you wonder how much more these conditions are due to change.
Yeah, absolutely. As we are watching Louis down into turn 7, Keza sets the fastest lap of the race in a 1:43.1. The only other thing potentially here is how long will the intermediates now go for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, tyre doesn't seem to last very long. The inters, as I say, it will be very interesting to see whether they can make it to the end on these tyres. I mean, I'm sure it's possible to get to the end numbers-wise, as I think Brando just clipped the wall there on the run down to the sling. But yeah, I think you're quite likely to see them try and drag this out, I think, to the end if they can, and if they can stay on this tyre, if the conditions don't get any worse.
We have seen before in obviously previous iterations of the game that going for a second set of the whatever wet compound tyre you're on can have massive benefits with obviously terms of traction, stuff like that. I mean, it just depends how much time you think you can make back up with a fresh set of rubber.
Yeah, definitely. I think, if you've got probably maybe a 15-16 second gap to the car behind, you'd probably take that risk. If you knowing that you probably really take that position no matter what. But yeah, exactly. I think there's a little bit more strategy in this now, I think, rather than just the wet to wet strategy that the game was thinking it might be at the start of the race.
Yeah, and just looking at the position movement at the moment, Got Spooked obviously up 1 place, Merck down 1 place. Those two swapped at the race start. Ryan started 3rd, is currently still 3rd, and Lebedev and Louis both up 2 places in 4th and 5th. Brando down 1, and Keza after the early switch onto inters and clipping the wall, unfortunately down 3 and a little bit no man's land at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Lebedev in 4th, dropping back from Ryan a little bit. Louis catching a fair few rate and knots. I don't know if Lebedev has damage, but it looks to be struggling on his intermediates. You can visibly see he's not looking too confident at the moment. Yeah, he's just dropped another half second to Ryan, so maybe a little bit of damage potentially, as Merc sets a pretty fastest lap so far there, as he chases down Got Spooked. But yeah, Lebedev struggling a bit. I think Louis is going to be on him very, very soon.
Yep, down to, albeit a second between the two drivers of Lebedev and Louis. Brando picks up 3 seconds for track infringements. You see, Louis just looks a little bit more confident on the power. He's sliding it out of the corners more than Lebedev is. Or as Lebedev has a huge twitch through 5, and that's put the Ferrari right on his tail.
Yeah, he's chasing down. I don't think he's going to get it done here, but I think Louis is probably watching this thinking at any given moment, well, Louis runs wide himself, but he's probably sat here thinking that Lebedev's going to make a small mistake somewhere along the line, exiting a corner or going into a corner even, and we'll just drive past him without too much grief. But yeah, Lebedev now he has someone behind him and seems to have gathered himself up a little bit.
Wow, it's close to the wall as we head onto the Anderson Bridge for the 11th time. He still looks the more confident out of the two. I say 3-7 though. Louis didn't have clobber the inside curb, which is the reason he went wide. Just now waiting for that opportunity. Lebedev's got to be careful running that wide out of that 90 right, because that line is the track limits. So he might have picked up a warning there, even if it was slower than what Louis was doing. Where does Louis make this move?
A slight tap on the wall there for Louis as well, I think, exiting the previous corner. I think it's too risky to go for a move down the inside here in these conditions. You know, you have to be so confident and comfortable that the other driver is going to give you the space to do it as well. I think this could be a good chance now. I think we saw Lebedev struggling through this corner quite a lot on the previous lap. And again, quite sideways. But yeah, Louis probably too sideways. But here you go, I think we've got a good enough run out of the corner. And can Louis get past him?
You have to think that Lebedev burning some energy there to stay ahead of the Ferrari. And this is a good little battle at the moment. We are going to keep an eye on Merc and Goswick though, because there's 7/10 between the two leaders now. But remember, Merc does not have to get the move done on track. We know he will try it because, let's face it, they are racing drivers, and racing drivers like to overtake other racing drivers. Oh, yeah, that was 100%. A big snap for Lebedev.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right. I think Merc will want to get this done on track, you know, just in case there is a bit of ambiguity over the penalty that Got Spook received. I think Got Spook's best chance really now is if a safety car was to come out. I believe you're able to serve that 10-second penalty in the pit lane.
He should be able to,
for speeding. So yeah, that's probably what he'd be hoping for now, so he can clear that penalty. Probably, if everyone comes in the pits to change to fresh inters at the same time, as Merck's very wide through turn 2 there.
Louis almost looked down the inside of Lebedev, then he got all out of shape on the entry in that final chicane, and it's dropped him about 8/10. He's now 9/10 behind the Aston Martin for now as they head onto the main straight. But Merc, and I think this is the general issue here for Merc. He wants to get past, but he also has to remember he doesn't have to get past. So he won't want to make this move unless it's 100% guaranteed it's going to be completed and safely completed.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you don't want to put yourself at risk when you don't need to. You know, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a difficult mindset to get into, knowing that you don't have to overtake the person in front. It's just being extra patient. You know, more patient than you probably would be in this situation. And you know, we know Merck's smart enough to not put himself at any risk here. And if he has to cross the line, second, but still take the win on penalties, then he'll do that. But yeah, I mean, got spooked. If he can get a safety car, I think he'd still come out in second and be able to then chase Merc down again for the win. But obviously, at the moment, we're over halfway through the race, and bar the odd brush with the walls, we haven't had anything serious happen just yet.
Yeah, and Ryan behind is going to want these two to start fighting good and proper because, I mean, even though Ryan does have a 3-second time penalty, if he can get within 7 seconds of Got Spooks, he can also take advantage of this penalty from the Red Bull.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I should imagine at this point in the race, Ryan's probably, his focus is probably on keeping the gap to Lebedev behind him at the moment and making sure he doesn't add to those 3 seconds. Lebedev, though, has Louis all over him, coming down to 2 and 1, goes defensive, and then back to the racing line. All fair there. Yeah, Lebedev starting to throw some defensive shapes now.
Just about in bounds of legality, that from Lebedev. You see the Aston is not settled. Good traction from the Ferrari. Here we go then. But once again, it looks like Lebedev just seems to save some ERS and is able to fend him off into turn 7. And it's a tactic that we saw yesterday as well.
Absolutely. I think one thing that we could note actually from yesterday is that actually you can save quite a lot of ERS in these wet conditions. You know, it's slippy enough at the best of times, so people won't be spamming their overtake quite as much as they normally would. Oh, and that's the wall. That is the wall there for Lebedev, and his left side of his wing has gone.
A yellow flag for damage, and it is the Anderson Bridge. And as we know, as you head onto the bridge, that is the slippiest part because you've got like a little bump, and it's with wet conditions. Got Spook sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:39.530. So he's trying to respond to Merc at the moment, but those two in a complete race of their own, and it's a big shame for Lebedev. The question is now, I mean, he's going to have to come in because not only has he lost an M plate, he's also lost one of the main planes of that front wing.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage. He's not going to make the corner here by a long way.
Yeah.
Big shame. He nearly actually then, just a minute ago, as he came through the flat left towards the penultimate set of corners, nearly ran wide into the wall just because of the sheer lack of grip or turning that he had. But yeah, here we go. Change new inters. This could be an interesting thing now to see how much he'll benefit from these new intermediate tyres compared to everyone else's.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting about how close is Keza going to be to Lebedev on the exit as well. I mean, I don't think he'll be in front of him, but it's going to be quite close between those two because with a front wing change, it's quite a long pit stop here at Singapore.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, Keza's just coming up towards him now, but I think Lebedev's going to be out in front of him. And yeah, like I say, you know, with these fresher tyres now, can he actually start to claw back some of this time that he has now lost?
Yeah, it's only going to be an interesting one. Louis 6 seconds behind Ryan now on track. And it looks like he might be gaining a little bit as well on the Sauber. I don't know whether you want to have a look at times around each lap here, Bruce, and see what the deal is, because it looks like Louis pulling a couple of tenths here and there.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Louis got the confidence at the moment in the car. Let's see what sort of lap times he's setting. Merc with a 1:39.8. Let's see what Louis is setting. I don't know if he's going to be that close pace-wise, but he's definitely looking confident. I'll tell you what, he's set at a good pace. A 1:39.6 on that lap for Louis. So Louis is actually matching the pace of the leading two right now.
And it's worth noting that Louis has 2 laps fresher tyres compared to Ryan. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but on these intermediates, that is actually worth quite a bit of time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, especially when they get to serious wear towards the end of the race.
Merc down the inside.
Close.
It was a mistake from Got Spooked. He ran a bit wide through the sling, although now Merc goes wide through the little chicane onto the Anderson Bridge. So these two are very respectful driving, making sure they leave each other enough room. but they are definitely starting to have a little fight with just coming up to 6 laps left in this race.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good, isn't it? And as you say, Merck will want to try and get this done if he can on track, but obviously then when he realised Gottspook was still up the inside of him, didn't want to take that risk. But looking again now into this penultimate set of corners, yeah, it's just too much of a risk there, really. Not quite a long enough run up. But yeah, Gottspooked. Oh, big moment for Gottspooked. And I think this is going to be Mercked into the lead of the race on track.
Door opens. You don't need to invite Merck twice, but Gottspook very late on the brakes around the outside of turn 1. That is fantastic driving. Keza has unfortunately ejected out of his car by the looks of it. I don't know, Bruce, if you've got Keza to be able to invite him back in.
Oh, look.
We'll see if we can get Keza back in the race, because we definitely want Keza to finish this race. He's arrived and drived, and he definitely deserves to finish this race and claim the points that he deserves. In the meantime, Merckx all over the back of this Red Bull. He's like 2021 all over again. Red Bull versus Mercedes. And
yeah, this Red Bull is squirreling everywhere, isn't it? Trying to get the power down.
It does make you wonder if the tyres are starting to cry just a little bit. Lebedev on those new set of intermediates, that is what new inters will do for you, a 139.0. And yeah, I think Kez's AI has pitted him.
Oh no. That's not ideal, although I guess he's going to get a 3-second penalty there, sorry, for Lebedev, so not ideal. New set of inters for Keza, so at least when he gets back in he'll be able to go super fast once again. Oh, and Merckx, contact.
Just a little bit of contact. They're still side by side coming out of the chicane. And Merckx got spooked into the pit lane.
Yeah, I wonder whether this is...
Merckx ejected from the car.
And we lost Brando as well, I believe.
Brando's car is still... got spooked is...
Is it all left in the session?
I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to have to see if I can invite people back in. So do bear with me.
We appear to have lost about half the field, I think, so far, unfortunately.
Whereas I don't have got spooked, I don't have Brando, so Merckx will have to come in and kind of hopefully get some invites to those guys.
And Louis now down as a DNF, but he's his car is still going round, so I wonder if something has possibly been called here.
I feel like this is going to be a potential red flag end of the race situation. And
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we have, if nothing else, we have hit half race distance for the half points. I you know, in theory, based on it being normally a 31 lap race before this all started to go a little bit awry.
so, decision being made here. The race that will be the end of the race, red flag, and the results will be reviewed on the lap prior to the disconnections. So the results will be reviewed. And taken from the lap prior to the disconnections. Obviously, any sort of penalties that were they will stand at the point of the race, and I think Ryan picked up 10 seconds of pit lane penalties after the disconnections happened, so he'll only have the 3. Brando will have 3. Keza will have 6. Spooked, I think will end up keeping his 10, because I get the feeling that his AI pitted and it possibly wasn't him, because I don't think Spooked would have pitted when that car did pit.
No, 100%. I believe Keza was the first to suffer a disconnection. So I think at that point we go back a lap, and I don't think anyone had taken a mad attempt at a pit stop prior to that. So,
I mean, we might, obviously with Keza, where he was placed, I think possibly it might be a slightly later lap, because I don't think his placing would be too effective, although everyone was in pretty much a similar sort of place.
Yeah, absolutely. It had kind of stabilised. I did notice a couple of people coming in to change strategies towards the end there to go to new inters. Although interestingly now that the race has been red flagged, we have very dry conditions on track. So yeah, it could have been a mad scramble to see if anyone would have actually stayed on inters and tried to drag it out to the end, or switched to soft tyres. But unfortunately we'll never know. And it is what it is, unfortunately. But at least we managed to get a race in, and it was despite only being 7 drivers, it was still sort of fairly enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean the wet weather was fantastic. I mean it shows you that wet weather racing is thoroughly enjoyable for a spectator and thoroughly horrible for a driver.
Some of them definitely looked uncomfortable, and obviously it's a high quality of driver we've got in here tonight, and it was tricky, and it was entertaining to watch, as you say. But it definitely sorts them out and throws up a few surprises. Louis was looking incredibly fast there towards the end of that race.
I think that's probably a big shame. The biggest shame really was for Lou, because he was catching in on Ryan. As Ryan going drifting through the last couple of corners. Louis was catching Ryan, and he had some great pace. I think he may have taken a podium position out of that had the game issues not occurred.
Yeah, definitely. It would have been very, very close. He was catching at a decent rate. I think as I say, the switch to dry weather would have made some difficult choices for people. But Louis, as you say, probably going to be most disappointed that this has been called slightly earlier than planned. I think he'll take good heart from that performance. That in tricky conditions, especially, he was matching the pace of the guys at the front. I think maybe the guys at the front got on top of the conditions a little bit earlier than him, but obviously he'll carry that knowledge now into the next race, and if we get similar conditions, I'm sure he'll be up near the front.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing really is for Lebedev is he's going to get a bonus point for that fastest lap of 39.0885. So that sort of crash over the Anderson Bridge is a small. Whilst he's not going to get as high a position, I think he only really lost one place, and he'll get a bonus point from those brand new inters.
Yeah, absolutely. It showed as you sort of alluded to before, how much of an advantage those pressure intermediates are. How quickly they do kind of wear over a few laps, and was looking pretty tidy. I think Brando was switching to a new set of inters as well for towards the end of the race, so it would have been interesting to see how much he'd have taken advantage. Weirdly enough, obviously we know the race has stopped, but Brando's AI has brought them into the pits at the end of lap 21.
I think they put them on Inters.
New Inters in dry conditions. So yeah, I mean,
top quality.
Maybe the Red Bull just team not really quite thinking this through right now. But there we go.
There we go. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching this. Obviously, it's not quite how we were hoping it would go tonight. See a few less drivers, a shortened race, and I think for probably the first time in IRL history, a red flag finish to the race. So we're setting some form of record here tonight anyway. But thank you all for watching tonight. Obviously, the racing action does continue tomorrow with RP. Obviously, no stream for that one though. And it will be back for next week, where, if I'm correct in thinking, Bruce, it's Spain next week.
It is indeed, yes.
Yeah, so Spain next week, we're going to have Tier 2 on the Tuesday, brought to you by Joe Hamster and JP911. We'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully, for the Spanish Grand Prix for Tier 1. So I hope you will join us then. But from myself and Bruce, thank you for watching, and we hope you have a good rest of your night.